monkey action figures. Who doesn't love a monkey action figure, right? I mean, come on, they're monkeys. And, whether it's a good monkey or, I guess, an evil monkey, monkeys are monkeys. They're fun. They throw bananas and other things that we probably shouldn't talk about. And there's weird ones, too, that, wear suits and have guns and... Yeah, I know. There's just something about monkeys. What can I say? They make great action figures. And Masters of the Universe has its sort of fair share of monkey-ish characters. I mean, Stratos is, more or less a flying monkey. Well, let's see. If you have a tail, you're a monkey, right? Apes have no tails. Is that how it works? Yes. Okay. I think I remember my monkey biology. You don't really, though, have kind of like a King Kong of the Masters of the Universe world. There's not like a, huge giant ape that climbs buildings and captures damsels in distress. But, we have our versions of them. We have, our Guy-Gores and our Shadow Beasts, which is what we're going to talk about today. I'm Scott ToyGuru Neitlich. I was the brand manager for MOTU Classics at Mattel. And like you, I'm also an adult collector. And I love getting to talk about these collector toys that I worked on because they were ones I was collecting too. I was working on them and collecting them. I mean, how amazing is that? All right, so let's talk about Shadow Beast. So first off, it was basically, Guy-Gor with a new head, which was really inexpensive for us, which was like one tool, head and accessory, which was awesome. Now that we had this great Masters of the Universe monkey body, we couldn't use the DC monkey body that was used for Gorilla Grodd because that was owned by DC. Mattel tooled it, but it's part of the DC contract, so you can't just slap new heads. But hey, we now had a monkey body, and we were going to use it. Now, Shadow Beasts are actually quite a large part of the Masters of the Universe lore. They go back definitely to the 80s, and they're one of those things that kind of, I guess, has really stuck around and inspired a lot of folks. In fact, they even have shown up in the new MOTU Origins in the mini-comic that's included with every Origins figure. Every figure has the same mini-comic, and right there on the cover is He-Man fighting a horde of Shadow Beasts. Is that right? Is that the proper name? A flock of Shadow Beasts? Has anyone come up with what the term is? A pack? I don't know. A village of Shadow Beasts? So, yeah, there's He-Man fighting the Shadow Beasts with Beastman looking on with very menacing eyes. And, He-Man makes quick work of them inside the comic with, one smash of his He-Manian fist. I think I just made up a word. And he sends the Shadow Beasts flying, even though Beastman is trying to control them and all that jazz. So as I said, Shadow Beasts have been very popular with fans, so much that fans were making their own. They were making customs. I want to say this fan custom is based on the Pit figure from Legendary Heroes from Toy Biz, but I could be completely wrong. That Pit figure is an amazing figure, by the way. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, Google it. It's probably one of the best figures made in the last 20 years. But Shadow Beast is a close second, right? I mean, come on, look at that snarl. Look at that face. The Horseman, again, just nailing it. It's a gorilla with a horn. Was that is that like a gorilla corn? Gorilla corn. Monkey corn? Monkey corn. That sounds like something you would buy at the circus. Hey, get your monkey corn. I don't even want to know. There's this whole thing now, right, with toys where everything gets a horn. They got puppy horns and giraffe horns. I don't know. It's a big thing. But Shadow Beast had it first. They were the original horned simians. They first started off in the Filmation series, and they were more or less a reoccurring villain, a reoccurring kind of just natural monster from Eternia that would, show up in multiple episodes, sometimes controlled by Beastman, sometimes just doing their own thing, sometimes, just protecting their lair. They were animals. They weren't, they didn't talk. They didn't have personalities. I think this one's name is George. But, they were also strong. I mean, they could lift He-Man and toss him around, just like He-Man did in that Origins mini-comic, I guess getting his revenge for this episode, maybe. But yeah, I mean, they were nothing to shake a stick at. Maybe that's why we gave him a stick as a weapon. And they also came in multiple flavors. I mean, not that I'm going around licking Shadow Beasts or anything. I don't know if this is strawberry flavored, but the point is they came in different colors. You saw them show up in kind of a rose color and in a brown color. And in the 2000X series, they made a reappearance. Now they had 2 horns because, everything in 2000X gets more horns and more spikes and more anime hyper detail. And they were also more shadowy, if that's actually even a verb, to be shadowy, where they could sort of blend into the shadows and they look more shadowy and they could disappear into shadows. So they were more shadow beasty. Now, in the MOTU 2000X timeline, which is also very much the MOTU Classics timeline, there was a period of time between, shall we say, King Grayskull and He-Man called the Great Unrest. It was when Randor and Keldor were princes together, and they were defending Eternia from something, something, something. It's never quite spelled out what they were doing. Duncan, i.e. Man-at-Arms, talks about it a lot in the series. Is like, oh, that happened during the Great Unrest, or I haven't seen something like this since the Great Unrest. Well, one of the things I really enjoyed doing in the mini-comics for MOTU Classics was fleshing out this time period. And especially because it was an opportunity to show King Randor and Prince Randor and Prince Keldor. This is pre-King. This is when Miro was king. Sort of, this was like their Clone Wars. This is when they were teaming up, like Anakin and Obi-Wan, before Keldor became Skeletor, and Anakin became Darth Vader for the Clone Wars metaphor. So the idea was, in their youth, their war, the war that they grew up with, was the Great Unrest. He-Man's war is the war against Skeletor and eventually King Hiss and Hordak and whatever else Evelyn feels like letting out of a prison for the day. But back in Randor and Keldor's time, they were fighting the Great Unrest. And what was the Great Unrest? Well, we know that Marzo was a big villain in it, and you can see him there hovering in the background. And we had the idea to make the Shadow Beasts kind of his foot soldiers. And you can see here even there's a brown one and a more bluish black one. And that was very deliberate. I remember giving instructions to Axel and to the colorist that I wanted them to make sure to color the Shadow Beasts in different colors when they appeared in those few handful of panels. And that was deliberately because I kind of had hopes that maybe one day we could re-release the Shadow Beast in another color, be it Filmation strawberry flavored or 2000X brown or blue or black, if you will. I mean, anytime you can re-release a figure and do a straight repaint with no tooling, it really helps the bottom line and helps pay for the fully tooled figures. You need, so many X partially tooled and repaints, and those are what pay for, absorb the cost of the fully tooled figures you want to do. So that way it was also Marzo had his army, and it was like the Shadow Beast could serve Marzo, like stormtroopers with Darth Vader or hover bots with Skeletor. And, if you wanted to also have Beastman controlling an army of them, all the better. The whole point was this was our first Beast army builder. Whether you were getting them in multiple colors, which we never did, or just buying more than one, you could justify that. There was a reason to own more than one Shadow Beast because they were animals. There were a lot of them. I mean, in Filmation, they would show up in packs, or did we decide what a whole group of Shadow Beasts is called? A flock. I'm going to go flock of Shadow Beasts. So they show up in flocks, and you could justify buying more than one. I mean, I know they were a little expensive, but we weren't expecting everyone to buy more than one. But at least you had sort of the rationale. I mean, you're not going to buy like a ton of Battle Cats, right? Or more than one Gygor. Gygor's one single gorilla dude. But the Shadow Beast represents an animal, like a lion or a mouse or a muskrat. And if you wanted to have a flock of Shadow Beasts, then, you had rationale, because there's nothing like rationale for an adult collector. We don't like to do anything if we can't rationalize it. So rationale and adult collecting of action figures goes hand in hand, like hand-in-hand stuff. I don't know, peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter and cream cheese, whatever. The point is, I think I already made my point. So that was Shadow Beast. I mean, he came out great. And wow, his accessory is one of my favorite accessories in the whole line. It's a giant club with metal spikes in it and a grip. And I mean, the Horseman just came up with this. I don't think we gave him any instruction other than give him some kind of accessory. And I love that. I even give this accessory to He-Man. I mean, I just think it's so flippin' cool. And he got to reuse the Guygor box, of course, once we had that structure. That was a whole other thing, is every time we had to create a new structure, that was like a ridiculous amount of work because we didn't really have full-time packaging people. We were borrowing and stealing time. So luckily we had the structure, it was already done, so you just slip him in that, slap on a bio on the back, and a cross-sell, and bam! Easy to do. At least, easier than a fully tooled figure that needs a brand new box structure and all new graphics. That would be way harder. And, we got to do our print ad for him, and I was always sad when these print ads went away. They basically went away when the magazine went away, when the internet kind of took over. I guess we could have kept doing them, but I don't know. It was a lot of work, and it was, I was already working, 90 hours a week here as it was. So I was more than happy to just, settle for one more monkey action figure. Because doesn't that just make everyone happy? All right. See you guys next time.